tidings, my good citizens. Now, if you're familiar with my channel, then you probably know I've got a whole series of videos called You Shouldn't Skip Yakuza. Insert number here. Now, the thing about those videos is that they're not exactly what you would expect from a title like that. I mean, they're basically just YouTube poops, but with like hype moments and aura sprinkled in. And even if you haven't seen those videos, the impression you might be getting is that I very much enjoyed these games, and I think you're doing yourself a disservice by not playing them. And while that is true to some degree, I feel like until now I've never actually been that transparent about what I really think of these games. So I'm taking this chance now to break my silence and try to beat those Glazer allegations by going into what exactly I like and dislike about each mainline Yakuza game, as well as some of the spin-offs. So grab yourself a stamina and try not to tiger drop the screen, cause here we go! Haven't played it. Okay, tell a lie. I've played a fair bit of the PS2 games, and from what I have played of them, I can very much understand the appeal of them for sure. It is definitely interesting reliving the story of the first two games and the rickety old PS2 engine with the good old-fashioned Dragon of Dojima moveset. I don't really have a whole lot to say about these games, mainly because I feel like a lot of what I have to say could just be applicable to the Kiwami versions and vice versa. Yakuza 2, however, was a real breath of fresh air, because I basically get to relive Kiwami 2, except it's not green, and the combat doesn't make me want to individually tear my pubes out. I remember in that very first tutorial fight, just seeing firsthand that fucking breakneck combo speed. I mean, I was just in awe. Like, my eyes had truly been opened. I can definitely see myself doing a full playthrough, especially of Yakuza 2. I mean, yeah, good lord, that combat is just fucking... I can definitely understand the hype now. And it's not like they're that hard to get your hands on too. I mean, the only price you really have to pay is the 5 or so hours it takes to download the ISO files. This is safely and legally, of course. I would never encourage anyone to do anything illegal now. I mean, come on guys. You shouldn't pirate games that aren't on the shelves anymore and haven't been on the shelves for like the past 15 years or so. No, don't do that, no. More like Yakuza 3, am I right, fellow Redditors? Yakuza 3 is probably one of, if not the most polarizing game in the entire franchise, which is a real shame because it isn't even really the game's fault. I mean, a lot of the issues that people have with this game are all because of like a bunch of frame-related quirks that just kind of went unchecked when they remastered this game. I mean, if I'm gonna talk about this game, then I have to address the block-shaped elephant in the room. Now, I know this is pretty common knowledge at this point, but the reason why enemies block so much is all because of the AI working at like 2 times speed because of how the frame rate is higher. I will admit that does get pretty annoying sometimes, don't get me wrong, but like there's like a dozen other ways you can deal damage that isn't just spamming the X button at them. There's weapons, there's grabbing, there's wall bounding, there's a dozen different ways you can do it, you know? And it's like people just get so frustrated because they can't just look at the enemy and spam one button continuously. They have to actually like plan their attack methods and whatever. And I just don't know if that's really fair. The whole thing about Kiryu starting an orphanage and raising kids is just a treat. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I personally love to see Kiryu, you know, being happy, taking care of his surrogate children and just having a good time. Like, the man has fucking been through hell and back, okay? I feel like he deserves this. I just don't understand how people in good conscience can say that, like, one of the things I hated about this game was, like, all the orphan stuff. Yeah, sure, maybe it does drag a little longer than it should and it like interrupts the flow of the story. I mean, sure, whatever, but it's like, I don't know, man, they're just like little wholesome moments between Kiryu and his family. I mean, you don't get in the way of family, motherfucker.
Beautiful eyes.
Now, I know I said earlier about how the combat isn't really that bad if you just like lock in. Now, you might think that's easier said than done, but you know, just trust me on this one, okay? I mean, if it's really giving you strife, then just start a new game on easy. Try to like grab enemies and use weapons and whatever. Just don't spam the rush combo, man. Just don't do that. As you gain experience and unlock skills and whatever, the whole thing just becomes a whole lot easier, you know, and this game will overall be a much easier pill to swallow. All that to say, yeah, I'm pretty fond of Yakuza 3. I think it's really unfortunate that the remasters were botched in the way they were. In a perfect world, you know, all of the Steam and PS5 and Xbox One users will be playing Yakuza 3 in the definitive way that Nagoshi intended, without all the blocking, without the faster heat drain. We'll all be singing Kumbaya around Daigo's hospitalized body, and all will be right in the world, you know, but it ain't that easy, pal. It ain't that easy. And I mean, hey, we still got Kiwami 3 to look forward to, so maybe that game will fix everything. Oh, no. Yakuza 4 is easily one of my favorite games. In fact, I'd go as far as to say it is my favorite game. I mean, it has my favorite combat, some of my favorite characters, favorite music. I mean, the game is just a banger through and through. The only thing keeping this game from being a 10 out of 10 is probably the story, but I'll get to that later. Each of these new protagonists have their own unique flavor of combat and have their own flair that they bring to the traditional Yakuza combat, sort of like a fighting game roster. Akiyama is the quick and speedy guy, Saejima is more sluggish but hits harder, and Tanemura is the one that gets banned from every tournament. I know I was just lecturing you earlier about how you shouldn't just keep spamming the rush combo over and over, but I would be lying if I said there wasn't anything cathartic about starting this game up and right away being able to absolutely wail on people. I really want Hana to sit on my face. The whole shtick of this game is that there's this big bad scheme going on, and all four of these characters are conveniently intertwined into it all. A little too conveniently, if you ask me. I mean, boy, it sure is lucky that Saejima washed up on the beach at Morning Glory, or boy, it sure is lucky that Akiyama's all buddy-buddy with the family that's involved in all this. And I'm also not too big on the whole rubber bullets thing either. Like, I know it's basically a meme at this point, but like, man, like the fact that Saejima never actually killed those guys at the ramen shop, I mean, it basically just undoes all the fucking like trauma and whatever that he went through after that. Saejima is basically a fraud now, and it's not even his fault. I really want Hana to sit on my face. One of the most common complaints I hear about this game is Tanemura's fighting style, which I'll admit is, I mean, it's not perfect for sure. It's a little bit of a fucking Frankenstein of moves, I guess. I mean, like, what is he? Is he a grappler? Is he I don't know. I don't know what he is. He's a guy. He's just a guy. He has a gambling addiction, okay? Just leave him alone, fucker. I mean, how could you really have that hard of a time playing as Tanemura when you have a button that just makes people stop attacking you? Tanemura, the original parry slot. So yeah, Yakuza 4 is pretty good. This is without a doubt Old Testament RGG at its absolute finest. I mean, just everything that made the PS2 combat so good and so spicy, and they really just crank it up to 11. I really want... Wait, this game is real? I thought you guys were just making this up, like the whole Dragon's Wrath meme. Now, I haven't exactly experienced Dead Souls for myself, and I'm gonna be blunt with you, I don't really have any urges to either. I mean, judging by what I've seen and heard about this game, I think it's probably for the best that we just sort of lay this game to rest. I mean, a remaster, sure, that might not hurt, but like a full-on Kiwami remake? I don't know, man. I just don't know if that's really on the table for us. I mean, we already bullied RGG into re-releasing Ishin, and what a slam dunk that was. Moshi wakanai desu ga, botta ni nanto kaiteru ka, wakaranai no de, kono gemu o purei dekimasen. Yakuza 5 is interesting. It's RGG's first attempt at a soft reboot of the series, and by reboot, I guess they just mean as much content as possible. They wanted this game to be the Yakuza equivalent of GTA San Andreas, which, I mean, whatever the hell that means, they were really overly ambitious with this whole game. And I mean, you know what they say about flying too close to the sun. This game has one of the better movesets for Kiryu, in my opinion. Sajima is more of the same, with the exception of he has his own Tiger Drop move now, which, I mean, yeah, even less sugarcoating it. Akiyama, though, unfortunately, his moveset gets nerfed tremendously. In Yakuza 4, you could just bounce and juggle people around like it's fucking Tekken, but in this game, I mean, I don't know, his kicks don't nearly have as much impact as they used to. Shinada. I love you, Shinada. Now, Shinada is an absolutely goated character. I mean, I'm pretty sure we can all unanimously agree on that. But his combat, however, I mean, I can definitely see why people have a lot of trouble adjusting to it. It's very... I don't know, man. Shinada's obviously supposed to be like a grappler type character who also relies on weapons, you know, which in a game where weapons are always just kind of a suggestion than anything, it is a little bit of an odd choice. His moveset, however, does get significantly better once you start upgrading his abilities, and he gets a bunch of skills that allow him to actually chain his moves into other moves, like... It just takes a bit of figuring out, that's all. Once you really get into the swing of Shinada's moveset, then yeah, he's pretty solid. I didn't really mind playing as Haruka, all things considered. Usually in games when there's like a segment where all of a sudden you're playing as a character that isn't really as capable as the protagonist are, usually they're not very good. But Haruka, I don't know, she was okay. I think the only real issue that I had with her section was I found that the dance battles and the Princess League and all that stuff, I always thought those rhythm games were like really piss easy. Like maybe they get crazier in like legend difficulty or whatever, but yeah, just every time I just found myself zombieing through each and every one of them. It's like the opposite of a skill issue. I'm too good at this game. I'm definitely not alone in saying that Sajima's chapter was just an absolute snoozer. I guess all the Deer Hunter fans will get a real kick out of this one, but man, I just want to fight people. When do I get to fight people? Akiyama's place in this story is a little haphazard. It really feels like they were struggling to find a good way to fit Akiyama into this story. Him and Haruka are treated as being part of the same chapter, like they're one and the same. Now, despite everything I said about this game being sluggish and bloated and what have you, I would say the final act is enough to make me forgive it all. You gotta eat your veggies first before you can have dessert, as they say. The idea of Aizawa, of all people, being the final boss is just so funny to me. This guy starts off being some Tojo goon who's supposed to be Daigo's bodyguard. Then it's just revealed that he's the son of the Omi chairman, who wants Aizawa to inherit the throne. But then Aizawa just says, fuck that, I want to do it myself. Proceeds to have one of the best fights in the entire franchise, refuses to elaborate, leaves. Yakuza 5 is in a bit of a weird spot for me. For everything about it that turned me off and discouraged me from playing it, there was so much more about it that just kept me hooked. It's like a bad habit. I wish I knew how to quit you. I give this game 5 Shinadas out of 5. Just like 90% of this fanbase, this is the game that started it all for me. I feel like Yakuza 0 was introduced to us at the perfect time. I just feel like that time period where it wasn't quite the brain rot era yet, it was like the precursor to brain rot. I feel like that was the perfect time for Yakuza to really be put on the map. Can you imagine the unspeakable horrors that would have been made if this game blew up at the same time as the deep fried trend? Now maybe it's because I went into this game from a totally blank slate, but there's just something about Zero that really left an impression on me that every other Yakuza game afterwards just couldn't. Everything from the story to the art direction just felt cooked to perfection. Now I know it's a very basic white boy thing to gush over retro Japan aesthetics, but Boy, those retro Japan aesthetics. If you're gonna make a game about 1980s Tokyo, then you gotta make it feel like you're in 1980s Tokyo. I don't suppose that many people are gonna contest me on this when I say this game has some of the best combat in the series. The different fighting styles were fun for the most part. I wasn't a huge fan of the B style, but that's only because I was too monkey-brained for it. Rush style kinda just feels like cheating sometimes. It's very easy to just cheese a whole boss fight by spending the whole time in rush mode and just giving him back shots. But of course the trade-off there is that it makes the fight go for a long time and it won't be as fun. But hey, what's an action game without a little bit of cheese to go with it? Majima's combat was fine, no major notes here. Majima being a playable protagonist felt like it was inevitable in retrospect. Majima, although not really the same as Kiryu character-wise, he always felt like an equal to him. It makes sense that the origin stories of these two people coincide with each other. There's always been an indescribable chemistry between Kiryu and Majima. No matter what happens, they'll always run into each other like they're fated to be together. Two souls bound together by a strong, passionate energy. Although I wouldn't exactly say this is my favorite Yakuza game of all time, I do have an immense respect for it. There's a bit of a debate on whether newcomers should start with Zero or Kiwami. Hell, some people even say you should start with the PS2 games. And my take on that is, I don't think it really matters too much when you play Zero. Even though the game is a prequel that's supposed to act as a precursor to the events of Yakuza 1, it's also a pretty self-contained story for the most part, and all the allusions to the other games are more or less just little treats for those who've played them. I would say for the most part this is a pretty good retelling of the events of Yakuza 1, save for some of the questionable changes like the facial animations or that whole clusterfuck at the beginning with Yume's ring. Holy fuck. All the extra cutscenes with Nikki were a nice addition. They really give us a lot more insight into how he actually ended up the way he did. Nishiki's good to evil transition in the original game always came across as a little random. Like he just goes from being Kiryu's good chum to wanting to overthrow the Tojo because, what, he's jealous? Because he's a simp? What's your fucking deal, man? Here we see that Nikki throughout Kiryu's absence just gets served a full course of shit with a side of doo-doo. His sister dies because the doctor is a corrupt scammer, he gets bullied by his own underlings, gets manipulated by Shimano, he really just gets a raw fucking deal. It's a lot more understandable why he crashed out like this. The reuse of the Zero fighting styles is neat, I suppose. What isn't neat, however, is the way the dragon style is handled in this game. Instead of leveling up that style naturally, the only way to unlock skills is by performing arbitrary tasks like defeat Majima 5 times, defeat Majima 50 times, give Majima a Turbo Gluck Gluck 9000. Then defeat him. You know, speaking of which, the Majima Everywhere system is fun in concept. Like, yeah, it's funny that I'm just going about my business and then suddenly there he is, but it gets to a point. After the 100th time where I'm just trying to get from point A to B, then suddenly I have to fight this dude, it just gets kind of annoying. And it doesn't really help that I have to actively hunt Majima down just because I want the dragon style to suck less. If you're gonna make Kiryu's signature fighting style feel depreciated for the majority of the playthrough, then why even include it? All in all, I think this game is great so long as you just take it at face value. Whether or not it's the definitive way to experience Yakuza 1 is entirely up to you. It's fine to think that it's not a very good remake, and in some respects I would even agree on that. But the game is still fun to play, and well, that's good enough for me. Mario had a rough transition into 3D. Oh shit, wrong video. Kiryu had a rough transition into the 8th generation. Yakuza 6 is the game that introduced us all to the Dragon engine, and I gotta say, it's not the best first impression. The engine looks beautiful, don't get me wrong there, and the way that you seamlessly walk in and out of stores is just whew. But then there's the physics. Look, I understand having props that can be tossed around like they usually would is the current industry standard, but it wouldn't really hurt to make it so that whenever I'm out of combat, I'm not able to destroy a whole fucking table just by stubbing my toe on it. It's a little hard to immerse myself in this environment when everything around me keeps fucking exploding. Even during combat, the physics are, at best, comical. You know, maybe the ragdolling was supposed to be an attempt at adding a touch of realism to the fights, but it just kind of takes me out of the whole thing when I'm locked into a fight, and then all of a sudden I get flung like I just got killed in Gary's mod. The new version of the Dragon moveset, or Dragon Reborn as some people call it, I have mixed feelings on. Kiryu using different moves for the combos isn't really that bad. The real issue is that this moveset is being used with a combat system that was put together with duct tape and prayers. The combo speed feels sluggish, and most of the attacks have a wind-up of about 2 to 3 business days. You think the blocking in Yakuza 3 was bad? Anytime your attacks get blocked in this game, you'll get staggered, rendering you vulnerable for no less than half a second. Getting your attacks blocked is one thing, but to have your whole momentum come to a screeching halt like this feels arguably as bad as getting stun locked. I know that there's upgrades to help reduce the diminishing effects of these mechanics, but the fact that there even needs to be upgrades for these? What a sick joke. Speaking of which, the upgrade system in this game fucking blows. Each upgrade cost is split between 5 different orbs that you accumulate by doing certain things. The issue with this is that— okay, Jesus Christ, shut up! The issue with this is that oftentimes you'll have more than enough red orbs to get that upgrade you were fiending for, but hang on, you don't have enough blue orbs. Better go hit the gym, dumbass. You're constantly going out of your own way to do a bunch of menial things like eating or finishing sub-stories, all because you were a few green orbs shy. You can even cheese this whole system by just eating a whole bunch of food, shitting it right out, and then just keep going until voila, you can now talk to women better. The leveling system sucks, the combat is tolerable, the story, however, well, we get one last look at all of our Tojo buddies before they're all completely sidelined. Haruka realizes that there's consequences to going up on stage and telling everyone that you're gang affiliated. The way she just up and abandons the orphanage and then disappears was a little harrowing to see. I get that she and the whole orphanage was in pretty hot water, and I don't suppose there's a real easy way out of something like that. But Haruka just straight up running away like this, lying to the kids, and doing this all while Kiryu's still in prison? The Haruka I know wouldn't do that. I mean, the least she could have done was ask Kiryu for a bit of advice. I mean, she had the chance to, right? Kiwami as the main villain was a little hard to get behind. At this point, the corrupt businessman who has ties to the Tojo clan is such a cut and dry character trait. I personally got a lot more of a foreboding impression from characters like Somiya, or hell, even the Triad people had more of a presence than this guy. The only thing that Iwami has and ever will provide to this franchise was the little baby Iwami meme. And it wasn't even him who said that. This game was supposed to be Kiryu's grand finale. It's the last game in the series that would feature him as its main protagonist. I just can't help but find this conclusion to Kiryu's story to be, well, inconclusive. I mean, obviously he's not actually done here. He's gonna be in every single game until he's like senile. Kiryu's decision to fake his own death, while in the moment might have been a good idea, ends up coming across as just reckless. Now this might just be an issue with the subsequent games rather than this one, but despite Kiryu's sacrifice, there are still moments where his family is put in danger and bad things continue to happen as a result of him still existing. And it just makes his sacrifice feel like it was all for nothing. But you want to know what's worse than one fake out death? 2 fake out deaths. At the same time. So this girl Kiwami, right? She gets fucking shot, and it's a real shame, you know, she didn't really deserve that. But then at the end of the game, it's revealed that, oh no, she's fine, you know, she's alive and well, you know. I guess Somiya just shish kebabbed himself for no reason then, you know, it's fine, don't worry about it. It turns out Iwami's goon that shot her actually fired a blank, and he decided that she's chill. Why exactly did he do this? So if this dude supposedly got tired of being Iwami's lapdog, then why does he then continue to be Iwami's lapdog? It doesn't make much sense, does it? It's so obvious that the writers ended up getting cold feet about killing off Kiwami that they just scrapped together this one cutscene. It's such a shoulder shrug of a retcon, they may as well have just said somehow Kiwami returned and left it there. But even after all that, this game is still pretty good because it has competitive jerkmate! Everything that I disliked about Yakuza 6 is applied here too. Same upgrade system, same combat, and same amount of jank. This is just Yakuza 6, but it's wearing a Yakuza 2 flesh mask. Now you could easily say the same thing about Kiwami 1, but at least it kinda makes sense for that game to take its cues from 0 since they're right beside each other chronologically. If you were to ask me what I thought about the plot of this game, my answer would be, wait, there's a plot? I mean, you got Daigo, and he's the next up to be the chairman. Then he's like, fuck that. But then Kiryu's like, fuck that. And then they go to Osaka, and there's this dude called Ryuji who wants to go to war with the Tojo clan, and there's this police chick, and she's like, my parents are missing and you're gonna help me! And then it turns out Sayama is related to Ryuji, and she's also related to the Mafia, and she's even related to Kiryu, and she's also related to you, the viewer, and Tirada betrayed us! I don't know, man. I've got like 50 hours in this game and half of it was spent on the cabaret minigame. What can I say? I love my ladies. Also, Kiryu actually kisses a woman in this game. Twice. You're still not beating those allegations, though. Judgment to me feels a little more like a tech demo than a standalone game. I say that because while Yagami's stunning combat, the sleek art style, and the chilling story are all pretty neat, at the end of the day I can't help but feel like I'm just playing a heavily modded version of Yakuza. Yes, I know it's a spin-off, it's in the same universe, yada yada, but I think there's enough degrees of separation that referencing stuff like the Tojo clan and Kamurocho and all that doesn't really have that much of a bearing on the world building. Judgment feels like enough of a self-contained story that I don't think it would really matter too much if it was in a whole continuity of its own. Another thing I can't really help but wonder is that if this really is in the same universe as Yakuza, then how the hell has Yagami not reached the same level of notoriety as Kiryu? I mean, Yagami's arguably on the same level as him strength-wise, and he's had some pretty insane feats of his own. How come the Tojo clan aren't telling campfire stories about the self-employed detective who will fuck you up both physically and legally? I never really engaged that much with the side content in this game, not because I didn't enjoy it, but because I was so preoccupied with the story that I just didn't really get around to it. Sorry ladies, I have a case to solve. There were so many times where I was itching to see what happens next, you know? I don't know what the hell they were feeding those writers when they made this game, but I sure hope they still have some left over because Lord knows they need it now more than ever. The combat? Awesome. The story? Awesome. The Keihin clan can go fuck themselves. Judgment is, well, it's a pretty awesome game if you couldn't already tell. You know what's an even better game though? This is basically just Judgment, but with twice the fighting styles, twice the maps, and twice the awesomeness. This is without a doubt the holy grail of Dragon Engine combat, which, I mean, making a game in this damn engine where the combat actually feels satisfying is an achievement of its own. If there's only one gripe that I have with this game, however, it's how there's only one button to change the combat styles with. It's not really an issue in Judgment since there's only 2 styles to cycle through. But when there's 4 styles, assuming you have the expansion, it would be a lot more intuitive to have each style bound to their own D-pad button. You know, like how the other games did it. This is also one of the very few games where there's been a plot twist that actually made me go and there's also a lot of valuable life lessons you can learn from the story. And that is that bullying is bad, and bullying can lead to suicide. And if anyone is bullying you or someone you know, kill them. Just fucking kill them.
Hawk.
This game is many things, It's a sequel, a soft reboot, an RPG, but it's also a story of love, friendship, courage, betrayal, redemption, sickos, monkeys, Korean people. Now, I'm not exactly the hugest fan of turn-based games. I mean, the last one I've ever played was like Pokemon Y or some shit, and I was like 10. But even then, I wouldn't say I found this game completely unpalatable just because of the genre switch up. That being said though, I think as a turn-based RPG, this game does kinda the bare minimum. I mean, yeah, it's got the turns, it's got the levels, it's got skills, items, experience, dungeons, yeah, pretty much the whole playbook, really. I can't help but feel as though there's a lot of missing potential when it comes to the RPG elements of this game. There's a fair amount of combat features that feel very Yakuza-centric, like being able to use roadside weapons. But the way in which you actually do this is very situational, and it all depends on whether or not Ichiban decides he wants to be within its range or not. The way that everyone just randomly shuffles around during combat was always so annoying to me. At worst, it trivializes all of the AoE attacks. There were way too many times when the enemies would be lined up nice and perfect for me to do an AoE attack. Only by the time it gets to my turn, they've all spread out, and so I either have to wait for them to come together again or just do something else. Not to mention the lack of an actual indication of the AoE range, just a piece of text. So every time you do use one of these skills, you just kind of have to pray that it hits all the enemies you want it to hit. Now, I'm not saying RGG are totally incapable of making a game like this. I think they did just fine. But imagine how much crazier this game would have been if they outsourced it to something like, I don't know, Square Enix or something. I do fuck with Ichiban pretty heavy. He's like an embodiment of hope and optimism and whimsy, and all the other supporting characters are pretty chill too. I would give anything just to sit back and crack open a white monster with a dachi. At the risk of getting crucified by every diehard fan, I did in fact commit the cardinal sin of playing this game with the English dub. Now, it certainly isn't as bad as the PS2 dub, that's for damn sure. However, the dub in this game and every other game henceforth pretty much just sounds like the average anime dub.
I speak English. So you understand what asshole means? Now go get me my phenylacetic acid. Asshole!
Hearing Daryl Corallo again was an absolute treat. His performance as Kiryu was one of the better things about the PS2 dub. There's just something about the gruffness of his voice that really sells it.
Okay, how about this? You can learn who I am, or what Ryoauki is up to. Pick one.
There's not a lot of people on this earth who can even hold a candle to Takaya Kuroda's voice, so it's pretty commendable that Daryl manages to fit the bill. I wanted to enjoy the story of this game. I was hooked in with the whole premise of Ichiban being seemingly betrayed by someone he looks up to like a father and then hitting rock bottom, only to then climb his way back and get his redemption through the power of friendship and paid labor. However, this game kinda lost me when it started bringing in a ludicrous amount of extra layers and characters and plot devices. Like, man, I could care less what the fucking Triad are up to. I just wanna go kick Masato's sorry ass already. While I'm not exactly fiending to do another playthrough anytime soon, I did enjoy my time with this game to an extent. Yes, I think the story gets a bit sluggish sometimes. Yes, some of the bosses are pretty fucking brutal, but, you know, it'd be like that sometimes. I still had quite a bit of fun with Ichiban and his undiagnosed schizophrenia, going on not just any old quest, but a dragon quest. Well, I mean, it was sort of like a Dragon Quest. I mean, you know, life really is like a video game if you think about it.
You know as well as I do, age is only a number.
What? If Lost Judgment is a nice takeout dinner, then Gaiden is the result of putting that takeout in the fridge and then reheating it the next day. It would literally take you a single afternoon to plow through the campaign of this game. And I wouldn't really have a problem with a short and sweet Yakuza spin-off if it had the price tag to go with it. And for a bite-sized Yakuza game, there sure ain't nothing bite-sized about those gigs. If I'm not mistaken, the reason this game is so spacious is because of two things. The infinite wealth demo that comes baked into it, and the super ultra high quality FMVs of all the hostesses. Surely there was some kind of way they could have compressed those video files, but no, I guess it's important that you're able to see every minuscule detail on Kaison's big, beautiful eyes. Gameplay-wise, I would say this is almost on par with Lost Judgment. I mean, a lot of the bones of Lost Judgment are pretty visible in this game. I mean, it's got the juggling, the reversal thingamajig. I mean, hell, even the Gorilla Man himself shows up at some point. This is one of the better iterations of the Dragon Engine, Dragon Reborn, Kiwami, Dragon style, Dragon of Dojima. Oh, no, sorry, Yakuza style. Oh, Jesus, man, I've been getting it wrong this whole time. How embarrassing. The agent style was okay. The only thing this style really had going for it was all the gadgets. And they're absolutely busted late game. If you can fully upgrade the spider string, then you've successfully rendered all the street fights obsolete. It is comical how you can speedrun the Hell Rumble just by spamming the string the whole time. So, the Daidoji, huh? What's up with them anyway? The Daidoji have been foreshadowed ever since Yakuza 6, but in that game, they were never really inferred to be like an actual agency or whatever. They were kind of just like, I don't know, a corrupt circle of government people, I guess. And correct me if I'm wrong, but in that cutscene where Kiryu agrees to keep his silence about the secret of Onamichi, he doesn't say anything about joining the Daidoji or anything. His terms of the deal was that Daigo gets released from prison and Kiryu has to be legally pronounced dead. I don't recall there being any mention of Kiryu agreeing to like join their ranks or whatever. You know, he just kind of fucks off and stays in the shadows for the rest of his life. And regardless, the fact that the Daidoji would even let Kiryu join them is a little strange because like Kiryu has like a massive amount of leverage over them. He knows about the secret of Onamichi, so he could very easily just use that to fucking take them down, you know? Do they realize how much of a loose cannon he actually is? They even have a bunch of fucking goons posted up at the orphanage like on standby ready to wreck the whole joint if Kiryu ever steps out of line, which doesn't that kind of go against the whole point of the deal? That being Kiryu gets left alone in exchange for him, you know, disappearing? Was the Yakuza 6 ending just like a fever dream or something? Did I hallucinate all that? Or maybe there's some bit of subtext that I'm just kind of missing right now, but you know, my point is that I kind of don't like the Daidoji. They kind of suck. And I couldn't help but just roll my eyes whenever this game had those moments where they try to make you feel like sympathetic for them. They try to make you realize, oh, they're not that bad, you know, they can be nice. Like, nah, bitch, just nah. Akame was pretty cool though. It's always so cute whenever RGG tries to psyop us into being straight. I will say one of the absolute highlights of this game though is undoubtedly the finale. That final battle against Shishido, I mean all the cinematics in that fight I would say are pretty much on par with the Aizawa fight. Whether or not the actual story leading up to this fight is your cup of tea, you have to admit this is just absolute cinema right here.
We had a good thing, you stupid son of a bitch. We had Nagoshi, we had a new protagonist, we had everything we needed, and it all ran like clockwork. You could have shut your mouth, wrote, and made as much money as you ever needed. It was perfect. But no, you just had to blow it up. You and your pride and your ego. You just had to be the man. If you'd done your job, let Kiryu retire, we'd all be fine right now.
Anyway. I'll start off by saying the combat is way better in this game compared to Like a Dragon. There's some mobility added, you can actually see the AoE now, you can choose which job-specific skills to pass over to other jobs. There's a lot more quality of life added in. And that's about where most of my praise comes to an end. Unfortunately, this game is, in my eyes, one step forward and then 2 steps back. While the combat is more engaging this time round, it's only going to keep me reeled in for so long before I'm disenchanted by the steaming dumpster fire that is the story. A lot of people criticize Yakuza 5 for having a bloated and drawn out campaign, and they're right to think that, but I think Infinite Wealth is an even worse offender of that. There were like 4 different plotlines happening at the same time, and none of them were handled in a way that made me all that invested in them. By the time I got to the last quarter of this game, I was so checked out that I basically just wanted to get this game over and done with so I didn't have to worry about spoilers. No doubt all of us were just slapping our bellies at the thought of Ichiban and Kiryu teaming up together, as was I. And the chemistry these two had in this game was pretty solid. However, that doesn't really help the fact that this game now has to juggle between 2 different main characters. Which really shouldn't be the case, since this is supposed to be a sequel to Like a Dragon, right? Shouldn't this primarily be Ichiban's game? Even so, Ichiban in this game hardly even feels like the main character. One of the worst downgrades that he has is the character arc that he goes through. Or should I say, lack of a character arc. I mean, really think about it. What does he actually achieve in this game? He makes some new friends, he saves the day, and he tells the villains that it's okay and there's still goodness in there deep down and that he forgives them. I mean, Jesus, he basically turns into Steven Universe in this game. The only real arc that he had throughout this game was when he was trying to rizz up Psycho. And he failed miserably. And besides, why'd you have to go for Psycho anyway? Like, come on, dude, Eri was right there. It's not a very good look when the guy who's supposed to be in retirement ends up being better written than you. This felt like a better send-off for Kiryu than Yakuza 6. It still wasn't very good, but with the way they hammered in the idea of Kiryu making the most of his last moments, you would think they really were gonna make him just kick the bucket in this game. But even after all the catching up we do with all our old friends, they still blue ball us all in the end. God fucking damn it. Well, who knows, maybe the next game will be better. I mean, it was alright. Who would have thought the game where Majima goes on a wacky pirate adventure would end up being so controversial? I will confess, I was in fact part of the crowd who were just gassing this game up when it first got announced. That initial look at the combat just had me absolutely pogging at the screen and clutching my chocolate Soylent. However, once I finally splashed out and played this game for myself, all I really have to say about it is, The very premise of this game just feels like some kind of fanfiction. I know this isn't the first time RGG's had a crazy spin-off game, but this one is supposedly canon.
And you're gonna need a lot of them.
None of these new characters are really that likable either. Their writing is just so dull and, oh my god, is that Samoa Joe? RGG's had a bit of a thing recently where they just cast like a bunch of celebrities in their games. They just straight up had Danny Trejo in Infinite Wealth as one of the villains, and now we just got Samoa Joe. He's just there, I guess. I mean, hey, I guess it's not as bad as hiring a sex offender. The combat just feels arcadey. It doesn't really feel like it has any complexity outside of, I sure hope I can finish this combo before his hyper armor comes back. It's so disappointing how underutilized Majima's pirate moveset is in this game. I mean, he has a gun, he has a grappling hook, all he's missing is a buster arm and he's all fucking set. If I really wanted to, I could spend hours sitting here talking about how this game is an absolute travesty and that it's gonna doom the franchise or whatever. Thing is, I just don't really feel that way. Do I think this game is a masterpiece or that it's an underrated gem? Hell fucking no. I'm not on team this game is so good I could die, nor am I on team so bad I could die. I'm on team this game is so mediocre that I can just sort of go on with my life and not really think too much about it. That I could die. Now, don't think for a second that everything wrong with this game and RGG's recent business practices are lost on me. Yes, I think it's insane to charge full price for what's basically a filler arc, and yes, I think overall this game will just be a footnote in RGG's body of work. But when the so-called worst game in the series is at worst a 6 out of 10, then I don't know, that's still a pretty good run. And maybe I am being too complacent about all the bad precedents that this game sets. I mean, honestly, that just goes to show how indifferent I was about this game. Everything that I should be mad about, I just can't bring myself to be mad about it. I think it's as inevitable as death that all of our favorite franchises, no matter how spotless we might think they are, they will at some point fall on bad days. Sometimes to love something is also to acknowledge its flaws, and Yakuza, boy does it have its flaws. Maybe it's true that ever since RGG started being led by the Lars Ulrich of the studio, that the games have sort of entered their flop era. However, I think it's way too early for any of us to be calling in the autopsy report just yet. And besides, if you think a couple years without a good installment is bad, how do you think all the Sonic fans feel?